Have you ever felt like you're standing at a crossroads, unsure of where to go, and every path before you is shrouded in fog? Maybe you've been hearing God's voice faintly, nudging you through Scripture, or perhaps through the words of others. It's a quiet whisper, an invitation to take a leap into the unknown. But what do you do when that leap feels terrifying? When your heart aches with confusion, and every step forward seems fraught with uncertainty, do you dare to trust that this could be God leading you towards something far greater than you can currently understand? In these moments of doubt, we must pause and recognize that often, the discomfort of change and the pain of uncertainty are where God speaks the loudest. Lewis tells us that pain is God's megaphone, a way to break through the noise of our lives and draw us closer to Him. The unease you feel may be God shaking you out of a place of comfort to prepare you for a new season, a season where He is asking you to trust without knowing all the answers. This isn't easy. It may stir up fears, old wounds, or desires left unmet. Maybe you long for clarity, for God to lay out the path clearly before you, but instead, you're met with silence or a feeling of waiting in the wilderness. In this space, it's easy to feel abandoned or forgotten. But what if this season is God's way of refining you? What if He is guiding you toward a greater purpose that can only be revealed through these trials? He never allows us to walk alone. His plan is never to harm us, but to mold us into something far more beautiful than we could imagine. Remember, God is not safe, but He is good. He never promised that the journey would be without struggle, but He promises that each step has meaning. Every trial, every closed door, every moment of heartache is being used to shape you, to draw you closer to Him, and to prepare you for the good purpose He has for your life. Perhaps right now, you're standing on the edge of that unknown, and fear is whispering that you're not ready, that the risk is too great. But as C.S. Lewis says, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. This journey, with all its twists and turns, is leading you somewhere incredible, even if you can't see the destination yet. God has not abandoned you. He is walking beside you, even now, in your uncertainty and pain. So I encourage you to stay with me as we explore more about how God speaks through the seasons of our lives, how He uses change to refine us, and how His plans for us are always for our good. Trust in His timing, even when it's hard. This journey you're on, though difficult, is filled with promise and purpose. Let's dive deeper into how you can navigate this season with faith and hope, trusting that God is leading you every step of the way. Before we move on, I invite you to take a moment to reflect on what God might be calling you to in this season. If this message resonates with you, please like this video, share your thoughts and struggles in the comments below, and subscribe to our channel for more insights that will uplift your spirit and guide you through your walk with God. We are here to journey with you. God bless you. Can I get an amen from you? Isn't it funny how day by day nothing changes, but when you look back, everything is different? C.S. Lewis. Have you ever stopped to consider how every moment of your life is intertwined with change? We live in a world where the only constant is change. From the moment the sun rises in the morning, signifying the start of a new day, to the evening when it sets, ushering in the night, we witness change without fully grasping its significance. Each day brings with it subtle shifts, often unnoticed until we pause and look back, realizing how much is transformed. But do we ever stop to question what these changes mean for our lives, our souls, and the journey we are on? When the earth tilts towards the sun, we call it summer, and when it tilts away, we experience winter's cold embrace. These seasons, defined by their specific climate conditions, spring, summer, fall, and winter, are more than just cycles of nature. They reflect the rhythms of our own lives. Just as the world around us changes, we too go through seasons of growth, rest, abundance, and even struggle. But unlike the seasons of the earth, the changes within us are often accompanied by fear, pain, and uncertainty. Do you feel lost in a season where the cold of winter seems to grip your heart? Or are you standing at the edge of something new, wondering if you have the strength to step forward? C.S. Lewis often spoke of change as an integral part of God's design for our lives. He believed that pain, fear, and doubt were not signs of failure but markers of transformation. God allows us to experience the low points of life in order to teach us lessons that we could learn in no other way. In the same way that the earth must go through winter to rest and prepare for spring, we too must face periods of darkness and struggle. Without winter, the beauty of spring would be incomplete without challenges. Our growth would remain stunted. But we cannot avoid change. But we can choose how we respond to it. Have you ever felt like the ground beneath you is shifting? Like everything you once knew is no longer the same? These moments, though terrifying, are often where God's most powerful work happens. Just as the seasons sustain life on earth, so too does God use the changing seasons of our lives to refine us. He carefully designs every trial, every shift in circumstance to shape us into the people we are meant to be. Change is not merely a force of nature, it is God's deliberate hand at work, crafting our story with purpose. But the question remains, are you willing to trust Him through the changes? As we observe the natural world and its continuous cycles of change, let us remember that these shifts are necessary for the survival of life. Without them, the human race, and indeed all of creation, would struggle to survive. Yet, the very same God who orchestrates these grand movements of the earth also orchestrates the movements of our hearts. When we feel as though we are in a season of barrenness or confusion, it is crucial to remember that just as the earth is renewed by the changing seasons, our souls are being renewed by the seasons God takes us through. Take a moment to reflect on the changes you are experiencing right now. Are you struggling through a season of uncertainty, wondering what lies ahead? Or are you entering a new chapter, unsure of where it will lead? Remember, God never allows a season without a purpose. Stay with us as we explore how these changes are part of God's greater plan for your life. Before we move on, I encourage you to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to our channel to continue on this journey of discovering God's design for our lives. We are in this together, trusting that through every season, God is at work. God bless you. Isn't it funny how day by day nothing changes, but when you look back, everything is different? C.S. Lewis. Have you ever paused to reflect on the patterns of your life? The way seasons shift almost imperceptibly, yet leave you profoundly changed. Perhaps you're in a season where everything seems stagnant, or maybe you're grappling with a trial that feels endless. The pain, confusion, or frustration may be so overwhelming that you question if God is aware of your struggles. Do you wonder why certain doors have been closed, or why life seems to move in a direction you never planned? Deep within, you may long for answers, clarity, or even just the comfort of knowing there's purpose in the challenges you face. C.S. Lewis reminds us that life often changes in ways we can't immediately grasp. Just as the seasons turn quietly from spring to summer or fall to winter, God is at work in your life, orchestrating each event for a reason beyond your current understanding. Every trial, setback, and unexpected detour you experience serves a divine purpose. God's design is not chaotic, it's intricate and intentional, much like the way He orders the universe with precision. The same God who crafted the stars and set the planets in motion is the one guiding the details of your life. Do you believe He's forgotten about you? Or is it possible that He's carefully weaving every moment into a bigger plan? Consider this: if God can manage the turning of the seasons, the blooming of flowers in spring, and the shedding of leaves in autumn, is it not possible that He is equally involved in your personal seasons of growth and change? Lewis challenges us to see that we are not the exception to God's careful orchestration. There is no wasted moment in your life. Each season you go through, whether one of flourishing, drought, or transition, has its own lessons and significance. What if the very pain you are experiencing right now is part of a grander plan to refine you, to make you more like Christ? What if the winters of your life are necessary to bring about the springs of growth that are yet to come? God does not lead you through seasons aimlessly. Just as He turns a caterpillar into a butterfly or a seed into a fruit-bearing tree, He is transforming you. He allows you to pass through each season, some full of joy, others full of difficulty, so that you might grow in virtues like patience, peace, and love. Lewis speaks often of how God's work in our hearts is like the refining process of a craftsman, molding us into something that reflects His glory. But this process isn't easy. It often involves trials that break us down before building us up. Have you noticed how in your darkest seasons, your deepest longings surface the longing for peace, for comfort, for purpose? God is not ignorant of your pains. He put every season in place for a purpose, and He uses them to equip you with the spiritual fruit you need for the journey ahead. As C.S. Lewis says, we are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us, we are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be. Every season, whether full of sunshine or storms, shapes your character and strengthens your faith. You are not walking through these changes aimlessly. God has a plan for you, and it's unfolding, even if you can't fully see it now. So, as you go through your seasons of life, take heart. The winters will give way to springs. The challenges will eventually turn into growth. God's ultimate design is for you to bear fruit that looks like Him, full of kindness, joy, patience, and love. His hand is on your life, guiding you through every season, deliberate in His purpose and persistent in His love for you. Would you allow yourself to trust this process a little more? To rest in the knowledge that God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with your plans? If this resonates with you, stay with us, as we'll be diving deeper into how to navigate life's seasons with faith and hope. Before we continue, take a moment to reflect, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more insights and encouragement as you journey through life with God. Remember, He is with you in every season. God bless you. How, then, would you know the purpose of each season? Simple, your Father in heaven would not bring you to a season and leave you blindfolded and unsure. He is faithful to guide you if you diligently seek Him. Here are a few reasons why He is taking you through this season. God allows us to experience the low points of life in order to teach us lessons that we could learn in no other way. C.S. Lewis. Have you ever wondered why, in the midst of your greatest success, a sudden storm of trials appears? Why does it seem that just when you thought you were on the verge of a breakthrough, everything starts to fall apart? Perhaps you've found yourself in a season where the possibilities once seemed endless, only to be followed by moments of scarcity, inconvenience, or even personal heartache. Could it be that this isn't a setback, but rather God's way of refining you for something even greater? In times of blessing, we often assume we've arrived at our destination, mistakenly thinking we've reached the pinnacle of God's plans. But as C.S. Lewis wisely observed, our trials are often the very tools God uses to shape our character. When everything seems to be going well, it's easy to forget that God's ultimate goal for us isn't comfort, but growth. He sometimes uses these high moments not as a destination, but as preparation. These seasons of abundance are God's way of revealing possibilities, testing how we handle them, and seeing whether we will remain faithful when the tide changes. And then come the challenging seasons, the times marked by constraints, scarcity, and hardship. Perhaps you've faced financial setbacks, personal fears, or unanticipated obstacles that leave you questioning everything. Have you ever felt trapped by self-doubt or overwhelmed by the weight of unfulfilled dreams? These moments of struggle may feel like stumbling blocks, but in reality, they are stepping stones to something far greater. As Lewis said, God whispers in our pleasures, but shouts in our pains. It is often in these painful, uncertain times that God is doing His most transformative work in us. Take Joseph's story as an example. At the height of his success in Potiphar's house, it seemed like his life was on an upward trajectory. But when he was falsely accused and thrown into prison, it must have felt like everything had fallen apart. How often do we feel the same way when life takes an unexpected turn? Yet, it was through this season of trial that God was preparing Joseph for something far greater, a role that would eventually save nations. God wasn't punishing Joseph, He was refining him. The same might be true for you. Your present struggles may be the very tools God is using to mold you for a purpose that's far beyond what you can currently see. So, why does God allow these difficult seasons to test us? Could it be that He is looking to see how we will handle the opportunities and the challenges. Will we crumble under the weight of our trials, or will we trust in Him and grow stronger through the process? As Lewis reminds us, our hardships are not in vain, they are meant to shape us into who we are meant to become. These constraints, though painful, are catalysts for growth, pushing us toward unexpected breakthroughs. As you reflect on your current season, ask yourself, is this trial meant to break me? Or is it an opportunity for God to make something new out of me? He never wastes our pain. Stay with me as we explore more about how God refines us through adversity, turning moments of scarcity into seasons of abundance in His perfect timing. We are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us, we are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be. C.S. Lewis. Have you ever asked yourself why God allows seasons of discomfort, uncertainty, or even pain to enter your life? Why does He push you beyond the boundaries of your comfort zone when all you crave is safety, stability, and the familiar? These moments can feel overwhelming, even frightening. But what if they are part of God's greater design to shape and stretch you into the person He knows you can become? Are you willing to embrace the unknown, knowing that discomfort is not a sign of abandonment but of growth? God often uses the most uncomfortable moments to prompt you into a deeper relationship with Him, to stretch your faith, and to develop your spiritual muscles. It's in these times of stretching that you might hear His call to step out in ways that challenge you, perhaps to speak to someone about your faith, or to offer a testimony that feels vulnerable. Maybe He is urging you to walk away from a friendship or a situation that no longer aligns with His purpose for your life. These moments may seem intimidating or even insurmountable, but it is precisely in these uncomfortable places that God does His most transformative work. As C.S. Lewis wisely noted, it's not that we doubt God's goodness, it's that we fear the process of being molded, stretched, and refined. But fear is not meant to be a barrier to growth. Consider for a moment, what are the areas of your life where God might be asking you to take a step of faith? It could be a new career path, a relationship, or even a ministry calling that you don't feel ready for. Yet, the truth is that God rarely calls us to tasks we feel fully prepared for. He calls us to walk in faith, trusting that He will equip us along the way. It's not about feeling ready, it's about being willing to trust Him in the unknown. The story of Gideon serves as a powerful reminder of how God stretches us to go beyond our comfort zones. Gideon, plagued by fear and self-doubt, needed constant reassurance from God before he could step into the role of leading Israel to victory. God intentionally reduced Gideon's army from 32,000 men to just 300, a situation that seemed impossible by human standards. Yet God wasn't interested in numbers or human logic. He was interested in Gideon's willingness to trust Him in the impossible. God's ways often defy human logic, and that's exactly where His power shines the brightest. Gideon's story reveals that true growth happens when we let go of control and allow God to stretch us beyond what we think we're capable of. Are you, like Gideon, afraid of the leap God is asking you to take? Is the fear of failure, rejection, or inadequacy keeping you from trusting in God's plan for you? These are valid fears, but they are also the very fears that God wants to conquer in your life. He isn't just stretching you for the sake of it, He's preparing you for greater things. God is not safe, but He is good, Lewis reminds us. This means that while God's path may not always be the easiest or the most comfortable, it is always for your ultimate good and His glory. God is calling you to break free from the limitations you've placed on yourself. He's urging you to take steps that seem scary but are necessary for your spiritual growth and for the fulfillment of His purpose in your life. Just like Gideon, you may feel small and inadequate, but God's power is made perfect in your weakness. His promise is that you won't walk through this journey alone. Even when it feels like you're stepping into the unknown, He is there, guiding and equipping you every step of the way. So I invite you to take this moment to reflect on where God might be stretching you right now. What area of your life is He calling you to surrender and trust Him in? It may not make sense, and it may feel uncomfortable, but remember that He is with you, using every challenge to propel you into new heights. Stay with us as we continue to explore how God uses these seasons to refine us and shape us into who He has called us to be. Courage, dear heart. C.S. Lewis. Have you ever felt that stirring in your heart? A restlessness that tells you change is coming, but you are unsure what it means. It's that quiet nudge, that persistent thought that perhaps God is calling you to do something new, something different. But with that calling comes fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear that you are not equipped for the journey ahead. Is there a part of you that longs for clarity but instead feels overwhelmed by the uncertainty of what God might be asking of you? These questions often create tension in our hearts as we wrestle between our desire for comfort and the pull towards something greater. In moments like these, God may be using that discomfort to awaken something inside of you, a new chapter, a new direction, a new purpose. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "It may be hard for an egg to turn into a bird. It would be a jolly sight harder for it to learn to fly while remaining an egg. We are like eggs at present, and you cannot go on indefinitely being just an ordinary, decent egg. We must be hatched or go bad." Perhaps the unsettled feeling you have is God's way of cracking the shell, preparing you to fly, to expand your horizons and stretch beyond what you've always known. Take a moment to reflect. What if this new desire, this unfamiliar direction, is God's invitation to grow, to move beyond the safety of your comfort zone? This is where Moses found himself, a prince raised in Egyptian royalty, living in the palace, far removed from his Hebrew heritage. And yet, deep within him, a new desire was born, a call to deliver his people from the hands of slavery. That desire didn't come without its challenges. Moses' initial steps were full of mistakes, fear, and even failure, as he fled from Egypt after killing an Egyptian. But in that time of exile, God was preparing Moses for something far greater than he could have imagined. What seemed like a mistake became the crucible that shaped Moses into the leader he was destined to become. Could it be that your current season of discomfort, confusion, or even failure is God's preparation for something greater? Like Moses, you may be in a time of waiting or transition, and it may feel as though everything is uncertain. But know this: God doesn't plant desires in our hearts without purpose. Every door that seems to close, every challenge that seems to block your way, is shaping you for what's ahead. As C.S. Lewis reminds us, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. This season could be your preparation. God might be pushing you to step out in faith, to take a risk, and to trust Him in the process. That burning desire to start a new career, to pursue a different path, or even to see. Have you ever found yourself questioning why certain trials and struggles persist in your life, wondering why God seems silent in your pain? Do you feel as though you're stuck, waiting for a breakthrough that never seems to come, only to be met with more challenges? In these moments, it's easy to feel defeated, as though life is passing you by, while you remain stagnant, weighed down by your burdens. Yet, what if the very season you're in, the one filled with difficulty and doubt, is designed by God to teach you and equip you for what lies ahead? C.S. Lewis reminds us that it is often through the deepest valleys that God shapes us the most. Just like Joseph, who found himself imprisoned and forgotten, God was not absent in those painful moments. Instead, He was preparing Joseph for his eventual rise to leadership. But what if Joseph had given up during those tough seasons? What if he had moped around in despair, assuming that his circumstances were hopeless? The truth is, God used every hardship to build Joseph's character and teach him vital lessons for his future role. And so, He does the same with us. God may be allowing you to experience this season not as punishment, but as preparation. He is molding you, teaching you to lean on Him, to find peace even in the uncertainty. Have you asked God what He is trying to show you in this time? Have you sought His wisdom for the lessons buried in your pain? Because when we stop seeing our trials as mere obstacles and start viewing them as opportunities for growth, everything changes. The season you are in right now will not last forever, but the lessons you learn from it will shape you for a lifetime. As Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 says, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. This is your season to learn, to grow, and to prepare for the blessings that are yet to come. But the truth is, God won't hand you those blessings unless you're ready for them. Just as an heir is not given the inheritance until the time is right, so too must you mature and be equipped for what God has in store. The pain and challenges you're facing now, they're part of your preparation. God is building you up, strengthening your spirit, and positioning you for something greater. But only those who are ready will receive it. Consider Joseph again. His ability to interpret Pharaoh's dream, which saved Egypt from famine, was not something he stumbled upon by chance. It was a skill, a wisdom, cultivated through years of seeking God, even in the hardest of circumstances. His heart was aligned with God's will. And because of that, when the door of opportunity opened, Joseph was ready. Are you ready? Are you preparing yourself, even in the midst of difficulty, for the opportunities God is going to place before you? Beloved, do not let this season pass without gaining the wisdom and growth God intends for you. Your breakthrough is near, but you must be equipped to handle it. God is not withholding His blessings, He is waiting for you to be ready to receive them. Keep trusting, keep growing, and most importantly, keep seeking His voice. It may be hard for an egg to turn into a bird. It would be a jolly sight harder for it to learn to fly while remaining an egg. We are like eggs at present, and you cannot go on indefinitely being just an ordinary, decent egg. We must be hatched or go bad. C.S. Lewis. Hey! Have you ever found yourself in a moment where you feel stuck, as if you are standing still while the world moves on? Deep down, you know there's a shift happening, yet it's unclear, even unsettling. Do you feel the pull of something bigger, but remain unsure of the direction or the steps to take? It's during these moments that the pain of confusion begins to settle in, tugging at the questions you've buried. What if I'm not enough? Am I truly prepared for the next step? These emotions may be overwhelming, but what if this is God's way of nudging you toward growth? Each of us goes through seasons, and Lewis's metaphor about the egg speaks volumes about our spiritual journey. Like that egg, we cannot stay in one state forever. The discomfort you feel now may be God's way of letting you know that it's time to break free from the shell that once kept you safe but now confines you. You may be in the mourning stage of life, where foundations are being laid. These are the critical times where every decision, every investment, and every choice you make builds who you are. Foundations matter, for as Psalm 11 verse 3 says, "If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do?" If you neglect this season, you risk stumbling later when the winds of life blow hard. Have you been attentive to the structure you are building? Are you laying bricks of faith and wisdom or stones of doubt and indecision? C.S. Lewis reminds us that God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. You may be feeling stretched, uncertain about whether you're ready to hatch into something more. But here's the truth: God never allows you to remain in one place simply because it's comfortable. Growth requires discomfort, a stirring within your soul to step into new territory. And yes, it comes with its own set of fears. But isn't this the very path where faith comes alive? Lewis understood that our hearts yearn for purpose and that our soul longs for more than a life of mere survival. This is why God often allows us to go through periods of waiting, learning, and even suffering, not to harm us, but to prepare us. Are you in the afternoon stage of life, where the execution of all your preparation must now come into play? This is where we move from learning to doing, where knowledge is put to the test. Think of Jesus, who spent years in preparation, quietly building his foundation before stepping into his ministry. He knew the mission, and at the right moment, he moved into action. The challenge, though, is that the world might not always cheer you on as you do the will of God. Those who praised you in the morning of your life may not support you when it's time to face your afternoon challenges. How often have we, like Jesus, experienced the sting of betrayal or the bitterness of those who were once friends now becoming adversaries? This is where resilience in your faith matters most. Will you stay the course even when others do not understand? The evening stage is where legacy is formed. It's not only about the success of your work, but about what you leave behind. Will your choices impact the generations to come? Jesus said, "As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming, when no one can work." John 9 verse 4. This reminds us that our time is limited, and the evening of our lives will one day arrive. What are you building that will last beyond your own lifetime? Is your investment in people and in the kingdom of God, or are you chasing fleeting desires? Lastly, there is the night stage, a time of rest, but not before the harvest. Before you enter this stage, God expects you to use every opportunity to build. C.S. Lewis understood the weight of legacy and the truth that you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. What ending are you writing for your life? Are you collecting the jars like the widow from 2 Kings 4, preparing to pour into others, or are you waiting for life to pour into you? As you reflect on these stages of life, ask yourself, have I truly maximized my season? Are you building capacity during times of plenty or ease, or are you simply letting opportunities pass by? God has a divine purpose for every phase of your life, and He calls you to act with intentionality. If you're feeling stuck, or like the lean cows have eaten up your fat cows, remember that God can restore the years that have been lost. Today is your chance to realign your heart and actions with His purpose. Are you? Let us pray. Goal. We must lay before Him what is in us, not what ought to be in us. C.S. Lewis. Have you ever felt the weight of uncertainty and fear, wondering how you will navigate the seasons of your life? There are times when everything seems to spin out of control, and the path forward is shrouded in darkness. Maybe you've questioned whether you have the strength to keep going, or if God is really there guiding your steps. In these moments of doubt and pain, it's easy to forget that God, who crafted the universe with infinite wisdom and boundless love, sees every part of your journey. He has woven together the details of your life with the same intricate beauty that holds the stars in the sky. Yet, why does it feel so hard to trust Him when the way forward is unclear? It is in these moments of vulnerability, when the challenges feel overwhelming, that God's faithfulness is most profound. As C.S. Lewis reminds us, we need to bring our true selves, our fears, our doubts, our weaknesses before Him, and not what we think we should present. God's love is not based on who we pretend to be, but on who we are at our core. His sovereignty endures through every season, and even when the road ahead seems hidden, His guidance is always perfect. Take a moment to reflect. Are you allowing God to lead you through these seasons? Or are you trying to force your own way forward? When life feels abundant, do you pause to thank Him for His blessings, or do you forget that all good things come from Him? And when scarcity knocks at your door, whether emotionally, spiritually, or materially, do you turn to Him as your refuge, or do you let fear overwhelm you? These are the questions that call us to examine our faith, our trust, and our surrender to the God who holds our future in His hands. As you walk through the varying seasons of life, it's crucial to remember that God is not distant. He's guiding every step, even when the road seems unclear. You may not always understand the purpose of the path you're on, but He does. His timing is never late, even when it feels like we're standing still. The peace that surpasses all understanding, the kind that guards your heart in difficult times, is yours when you trust in His plan. But it requires surrender of your fears, your uncertainties, and your need for control. C.S. Lewis teaches us that God's plan for us is not one of comfort, but of growth and transformation. It's through our struggles that we are refined, and through our trust in Him that we become more resilient. So whether you're in a season of abundance or in a period of waiting, trust that God is intentional with your life. He is preparing you for something greater, molding your character, and aligning your heart with His purpose. Every trial, every triumph, and every transition is designed to draw you closer to Him. Stay with me, and together, we will continue to explore how to navigate these seasons with faith and hope. We will learn how to lean on God when the way is dark and to celebrate His blessings when life is full. If this message has touched you, please take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments below, and hit the subscribe button to join our growing community of faith. Your journey with God is ongoing, and we are here to walk it with you. God bless you.